Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. This week's interview is very interesting because he's involved in the same surroundings what I am in motorsports. But on to him in a minute. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to everyone so much for the support this year. Honestly, can't thank everyone enough. And thank you so much to LTS Equipment for coming back on board for another year. There'll be more details released about that soon. But Josh Burdon is a fellow who's been surrounded by Formula V his entire life. So I am very honored to have the pleasure of speaking to him tonight, and I can't wait for it. So on the show, I welcome Josh Burdon. How are you tonight, Josh?
Hey, good, thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I usually ask how people first got involved in motorsports. So where did it all begin for you?
So probably go back to about 2006, I reckon. So I was probably 8 or 9 at that stage. Um, just around I was lucky enough to have some good contacts at that stage through family and family friends, who were, very successful within Formula V in Tasmania. So it all sort of kicked off from there and sort of still going. So it's going well.
Yeah, and you have been involved in the Formula V category for a long time. What do you like most about the category?
Just the fact it's one make. Um, it's racing so close. Doesn't matter where you are in the field. There's always somewhere, for you to race. It's probably the cheapest form of motorsport in the country as well. So, um, yeah, it's just a really good category overall.
And when you were younger, obviously you got involved really early on. So what really I guess, kickstarted it for you? What was your first memory?
Um, Probably so. Good family friend of ours, Noel Clark, who people would know from Tasmania. He won the state championship in 2008, I think. Then 2009, he won the Australian title down here at Baskerville. So that was probably the first major memory of winning something big, and then we sort of still kicked on from there.
And when you were younger, when did you start getting hands-on? Because I know for me, I started at about 10 years old, and I felt like that was early for me.
Yeah, so it was probably 2009, 2010. So my father did a season in 2010 in Formula V. We ran fourth in that championship. Missed a round because we went to an event at Phillip Island that year. So probably around that period. And just as time's gone on, you get more and more involved and you learn more by hanging around the right people. And yeah, it's yeah, still going today.
Yeah, and what do you think the most important aspect of Formula V racing? What makes the car go?
Probably a combination of everything, really. I mean, you've got to have obviously a good chassis, good good engine, and that sort of stuff. But just making sure you're because you're racing so close, making sure you position yourself at the right time to sort of get as far up the grid as you can. Because as we know, it's not always best to lead at the start of the last lap.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing for Phillip Island. You don't want to be leading on the last lap. I know I haven't had much success in the Formula V so far, but last year that was I made a crucial move. I accidentally made the mistake of passing someone onto the main straight, coming onto the last
Yep,
lap, but
yep,
kind of tricked him out, and I hit the brakes really hard at MG, so I locked up, and then I
yep.
slot right in behind him and got him back before the line.
Got him
So
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially tracks like Phillip Island. We've got a similar thing with Simmons Plains down here. You definitely don't want to be leading coming out of the hairpin. So
yeah.
yeah, but it's good. We've got Baskerville down here, which is probably pretty similar to Winton, where the tow's not as effective. Um, so it's got a combination of both tracks, really.
Yeah, so Baskerville, I've never seen it or ever driven it on the simulator because I've done Simmons Plains on a simulator.
Yep.
What's Baskerville like to drive around?
So it's really challenging to get probably the last second or so out of the car around Baskerville because there's lots of corners, lots of elevation. Um, you go up the hill and there's a blind left-hander which you can't see. Just got to sort of judge your point pretty well. So yeah, you just got to be really precise on what you're doing. Whereas Simmons Plains, it's all about power and um, yeah, positioning yourself right.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things you got to do at Winton is you got to make sure every gear change is correct and every
Yeah,
bit of steering is, because otherwise you'll mess up and you'll run off the track. It's a very
yeah,
easy thing to
yeah,
do.
yeah. Same at basketball. There's not a lot of runoff either. So if you do go off, generally you're sort of stuck. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, no, it's a good track. Australian titles there this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of people travel over from the mainland to compete in Tasmania for the nationals?
Yeah, there will be quite a few. So we're looking. I mean, for 1200s, which is what we run down here, we're looking at a grid of about 20, which is a lot more than what you probably get on
Yeah.
them over in Victoria, New South Wales. Um, and we'll still have a solid field of 1600s as well. So combination of both would be pretty exciting, I think.
Last time I remember versing at 1200 was probably a bit earlier than this time last year at Winton. There was one, which is Stephen Butcher, and he's pretty
Yep,
good.
yep. He's very good, yeah. So he's booked to come over, so he'll be hard to beat. Obviously, he won the Australian title last year, so he'll be up there, no doubt, with the best of them.
Yeah. I've heard that Stephen Butcher is so quick in the 1200s that he could compete at the back of a 1600 grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We've seen that before when he's around his 1200 in the Australian Series rounds. He's quite often up there, especially tracks like Winton where there's lots of corners and the power is not so critical. Yeah, quite often competes with the 1600s.
Yeah, and obviously not people might not know if they're watching this, but you have a lot of involvement in historic racing cars. What cars do you usually run with?
So yeah, in historic racing, we've done a little bit. So um, was at Phillip Island this year at the big historic meeting there, running um, Formula Ford. So a car that was campaigned by Paul Stokell in the Driver to Europe Championship back in the 90s. So it's been restored back to how Paul ran it. And now, so yeah, we ran Phillip Island, ran that at Simmons Plains a couple of weeks ago. Um, and yeah, bit of other stuff. Historic Formula 2 car, a bit of involvement with. We've taken that to Phillip Island, Mallar, up to Queensland. So yeah, it's actually quite an exciting form of motorsport. You
Yeah.
see all how the older cars are presented back to how they ran back in the day.
And how old was that Formula 2 car?
It's 1976.
Yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's so around a track like Phillip Island, that's about 7 seconds quicker than a Formula Ford, historic Formula Ford.
Wow.
So yeah, bit more power, slicks, wings, that sort of stuff. So it's yeah, they're exciting to watch.
Hmm. Are they based off a older Formula One car? So if it was 70s, would it be based off a 1960s F1 car, for an example?
No, so they're sort of similar as a 70s F1 car. So you got aluminium, full aluminium chassis. Um, so like a monocoque, sorry, like a tub, full aluminium tub. So their Formula 2 back in the 70s was four-cylinder overhead camshaft engines. So they were putting out about around 185 to 200 horsepower
Yeah.
um, at running at about 500 kilos with the driver. So
Wow.
they're so yeah, they're quite powerful for that weight.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I know Formula One cars these days they weigh about a ton, and they've
Yeah,
got 900 horsepower.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, so their power to rate is about 1 to 1,
Mm.
whereas yeah, yeah. So it's interesting to see how things have progressed over over the years. Definitely a lot faster now, but yeah, it was probably a lot simpler back then. That's for sure.
Yeah. And these days, Formula 2 cars weigh about 755 kilos with a
Yep.
driver. I'm just looking it up here. And they make about 620 horsepower. So a
Yeah.
big difference to
Yep.
what
So
they used to be.
yeah, that's right. There's a lot more relevance now with Formula Two to Formula One than what there was, say, back in the 70s, or 80s. But that's how things were, and good to say things have progressed to a bit more of a stepping stone than what they once were.
And did you notice much safety changes within a modernized sort of car to an older historic?
Yeah. So I mean, you obviously got things like the halo, your seating position, um, even just the seat itself. In modern Formula One is basically wraps around you. Where back in the day, you basically sit on the floor if you wanted to. Not that that's how we do it, but the safety standards are definitely much higher than what they once were.
And did you have a proper, is it called a 6-point harness, the one where it comes down
Yep,
across?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So as far as all that, your safety stuff, you still as it now you still got to run as your 6-point harness, hands device, all those sorts of safety features.
Mm.
Um, you got to have a fire bomb on board, all that sort of stuff. So as far as how we go in Australia, your safety stuff's kept up with the modern categories.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still good to see that sort of stuff is picked up.
It is really great to see. And have you seen the new Simpson Hybrid Pro? It's like the new Hans device.
Hans device, yeah, that's probably a lot of people were starting to go over to it. I think it's probably a lot better because you're not relying on your belts to go over your hands device. You can just clip it around yourself. So
Mm.
um, I think it's a bit more expensive, but if it's better for safety, then it's got to be a way forward.
Yeah. I mean, the Hans device has already been a key role in the sport. It's saved a lot of lives, and it's something definitely that will continue on, I think, forever. But with Simpson, they've changed the game a little bit,
Yeah,
putting a full strap over your torso, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. That's right. Yeah. So you're not relying on your straps because if you have a reasonably big shunt, then your belts do sometimes stretch. So you haven't got that to sort of rely on. It's all bolted to all strapped to yourself. So it's a good thing.
And do you have a favorite track in Australia? Because you have come over to the mainland a few times. So is there a
Yeah.
favorite track out of all of Australia?
Not really. I've been to Bathurst a couple of times. That's obviously hard to beat.
Yeah.
Um, Tail and Ben's really good. That's a really good facility. Um, I love Phillip Island, so there's a few good tracks like that. But yeah, drive like I like a good drivers track too, like Baskerville, Winton. Been to Lakeside. A really good drivers track. So yeah, um, bit of both. Got some really good facilities. Are nice to have.
Yeah, definitely. And not many people agree with me when I say this, but I think Sandown's my favorite track. From a driver's point of view, facilities probably aren't as great as what Phillip Island or Tailem Bend would be up to, but honestly, as a driver, I do like the track because it's tough on the hands.
Yeah,
Because we don't have power steering, but then again,
yeah,
with
that's
that
right. Yep.
light, we don't need it
Yeah,
either way.
yeah. It's still got enough corners to test you out.
Mm,
But yeah, enough for the toe to come in effect down those long straights. So yeah, Sandown was a good track that we visited when we was doing the national series as well back a few years ago. So yeah,
It seems though that the 1200 series has died off a little bit in the mainland anyway. So do you think that's just because people are running 1600s because they're quicker? There's more of them. What do you think?
yeah, combination. I think a lot of people want to go 1600s just because it's the most modern way to go. It's what all the new cars have been built as. Um, then I think once it gets rolling, in a certain state, then that's the way everyone sort of tends to go.
Mm.
And overall running costs once you've got the car, it's probably not too much different. It's just that initial sort of startup that hasn't really happened here in Tasmania yet. There is a few 1600s in the pipeline, so it might end up down here like Western Australia. You sort of got 50-50 split of both. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and hopefully 1200s do make a little bit of a return because they are still a very quick category for what the
Yeah,
cars are.
yeah,
Obviously, they had a lot more shape to them than I guess what these cars do. They were a lot
yeah,
wider. They had more, I guess, I don't know really what the word is, but the body looked like um,
yeah,
they put effort into it. You know what I mean? Where these days
yeah.
it's
So
right slim up against the chassis.
yeah, yeah. So now the bodies are a lot more streamlined. So quicker down the straights. You don't get as big of a toe off each other. Um, there's a couple of better bodies out there that you can make work on 1200s that have been designed up in Queensland. So they sort of seem to be the way to go over the past 5-10 years. A lot of cars have migrated to that body shape. But yeah, it's still good to have a category where you can pick and choose your body. Um, you obviously got your JC chassis that have got, all their body shapes are very similar.
Mm.
Um, but you got cars like the Sabres, they're obviously similar. Those the couple of checkmates built by Paul Corcoran in New South Wales, they've got their own body shape, so it's good that everyone's got their own ideas on what works and what doesn't. And
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, our Saber's got a different body because they've modified the rear end to put the
yep,
coilover on the back. Where I
yep,
think
yep.
originally they run a leaf spring.
They did, yeah, yep,
Yeah. So ours was modified to have a coilover on it. So the whole thing is different and it doesn't really line up properly anyway. So you might have to get
yep,
an original body and modify the back.
yeah, yeah. And there's still molds about it. That's a good thing because there was so many mass produced.
Mm.
Um, you know, there's still molds about where you can get the original bodies made, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And who are some of the drivers that you have worked with over the years?
So main one in the last five, well, maybe 7 years, Wade McLean, Tassie. So we've toured the mainland quite a lot. So we won 3 national titles on the bounce. Done the Australian series in 2017, 2018, 2019, Paul Corcoran's checkmate chassis. So we finished second up in the first year in that series. Had a bit of a tough run the second year. Then got COVID sort of interrupted us the next year. We won the first Australian series round at Winton that year. And then, yeah, like I said, COVID sort of got in the way of all that. So we haven't really done much mainland racing since then. But yeah, who knows what will happen? If we have a good run at the Australian title this year, we might head back over. I think it's Western Australia next year, so who
Mm.
knows what might happen.
Yeah, it's a fair journey for a lot of people heading over to Western Australia.
It is, yeah. So we done it when we won the second Australian title. So it was pretty well, away from home for a good couple of weeks. So, tied in all right because we done the Phillip Island of Magic on the way home. So that was good that year. So yeah, yeah. See what happens.
Yeah. And what do the 1200s sort of do down the main straight of Phillip Island? Because I think the 1600s can go quite quick.
Yeah. So you're about top out at about 170, whereas I think we've seen about 200 out of some 1600s. That's sort of maximum with the right wind. But
Mm.
so there's a little bit of top speed difference, but if you've got a car set up well and all that sort of stuff through the corners, you can sort of keep the tail end of the 1600s. So yeah, it actually makes good racing when you got you might have someone who's quicker through a corner, but and then through the straights they get away a bit. So it's yeah, it's pretty good to watch.
Although one thing I never liked about when I was in go-karting is when they put two classes together and I'd
Yeah,
be leading the slower class and the faster class in front of me, there'd be a bad driver, but when you'd pass him, he'd just take you, get you back on the
yeah,
straight.
yeah. So as long as as long as the classes don't interrupt each other, then
Mm,
it, for your spectator, it makes for good racing.
mm, definitely. It's it's one of the things that can be a little bit controversial, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of states they sort of seem to make it work. So I know when we done it, with 12s and 1600s, we sort of separate the grid by a couple of rows, and it's sort of just enough to stop the classes getting interrupted by each other.
Yeah, doesn't matter because I stole anyway.
That's all right. We've all done it.
Yeah. Um, but are there any cars on your bucket list that you would A like to drive or work on?
Um, not like I love radicals. They like
Yeah.
when you look at them, they're really fast. And they're just so well built for a car that's so mass produced.
Mm.
So they're a cool car. They'd be unreal to drive, I reckon. Um, but yeah, just obviously the faster you can go, and there's a lot more maintenance you've got to do. So whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just part of it all, really.
Yeah. I believe they race radicals mostly in Western Australia, don't they?
Yeah, so there's a company called Arise Racing in Western Australia that are sort of the Australian importer of those out of the UK. Um, and then I think they're pretty big in New South Wales, radicals as well. And then there's the Australian Championship, so there's actually quite a few of them around the country. Um, and yeah, really quick. So
Yeah, I think I was actually browsing on my 105 not too long ago and I saw one come up. They're quite I'll have a look again, but I think they're not too badly priced for what they go.
yeah, I can't remember what they go for, but yeah, for the speed, considering they come out of the UK,
Hmm.
so there's a big cost getting them here to start with. I don't think they're too badly priced.
Yeah.
Then you got your S5000s. That would be an absolute blast to drive. They could have a big field of them in Australia, but
Hmm.
see what happens over the next couple of years.
Although then again, I was watching the Speed Series today and Drew Bargwana won it. And he said that the Falcon's the quickest car he's ever driven. I don't know
Yeah, okay.
if it'd be quicker than the S5000 or not. But
Yeah, not sure. Maybe overall power might be a bit
mm,
more in a supercar.
yeah,
Because I think the S5000's got certain tracks have been capped a little bit to slow their straight line speed down. So um, yeah, still cool to have a V8 category, open wheeler category back in Australia.
mm. Well, I thought they would have almost been too big for Phillip Island, which is where they're racing this weekend.
Yeah, so I think Phillip Island they're doing about 1 minute 25s, which is sort of right on the outright track record. So they're so yeah, super quick. I think Simmons Plains they're a couple of seconds quicker than in the supercars. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Simmons Plains is it's very technical for the corners it doesn't have.
yeah, yeah. So it's a hard lap to get 100% right because you got the hairpin, which if you go in, you can make up time on the entry, but then if you go in too deep, then you lose all that time down the straight.
Mm.
Um, so you sort of, well, without being cautious, you sort of got to focus on that on your exits because there's your two slow corners lead onto two reasonably long straights.
Yeah. And just quickly about our radical thing before, they virtually range from 50 grand to 120.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think they're bringing out new models all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, sorry. My apologies. The 2021, there was a model there for 121. Oh, no,
yeah,
178.
okay, yeah, okay,
178.
yep, yep, yeah.
Hey,
So do vary quite a bit in price, but
mm,
they're still a good car.
Aussie racing cars are also really good priced, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, they always have been. Probably the engines been, I think they're a 1300cc Yamaha, so
Mm,
they're probably reasonably um, mass produced. Um, and yeah, for what they are, they're really quick. So they look fun. They look fun racing.
Yeah, the funny thing is they're an air-cooled engine, and then when the Aussie racing cars send it to, I'm not sure what their names are, but they're a scrutineering company, and they do Toyota 86 Aussie racing cars and the development series. They
Yep.
convert them from air air cooled to water cooled.
Yeah, because when they first started up in Australia, they were all air cooled, and now they've gone to water cooled. So I think it could only be a good thing for the engines, keep them a bit cooler.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Is it because it's too hot in Australia and they're trapped under that body that they need to be?
Yeah, probably a little bit. I mean, I really haven't had much involvement with them, so I'm not too
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, we do get obviously quite a few hot days,
Mm.
especially when they're racing up in Darwin, like they do sometimes. So yeah, probably wouldn't hurt. I think increase the longevity of the engines as well.
Yeah, definitely. And am I correct in saying that you did a little bit of photography?
A little bit back in the day, yeah. So I sort of had a bit of a break between 2012 to 2015 ish, I suppose, from much racing activity. So yeah, I didn't mind getting the camera out, but that's sort of, you know, you can't do two things at once. So
Mm.
racing takes priority definitely over that.
Yeah. Have you come to the mainland to do spannering for someone who's only doing a like the Victorian series, for an example?
Um, Sort of done a little bit. Um, we get along really well with some Western Australians. So back in 2017, we went over um, with April Welsh and Bruce Welsh from Western Australia, worked on their cars. Um, yeah, so that was obviously in Formula V. That's been about it outside of Tasmania.
Mm.
That was purely just because we get on with all the Western Australians really well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I also heard you did, well, not heard, I know you've done it. You do sim racing and you're quite quick.
yep, yeah. So I've been on iRacing since 2012, so plenty of years of experience. It's probably died down a bit from what I was doing back then, but we yeah, certainly have a crack. So still got the Formula V E series that's happening at the moment. Um, so yeah, we didn't have a real flash run on Wednesday night, but yeah, it's good to see those sorts of cars com- coming across to yeah esports or sim racing,
Yeah.
and people actually making a proper series out of it.
I was just trying to find my iRacing app because I think majority of my wins I was having a look just come from the Formula V series. Not the A series,
Yeah,
the rookie class one.
yep, yep, yeah. So it's I think look, they've done a pretty good job with the car actually for
Mm.
how it drives, its power output, all that sort of stuff, um, to make it comparable. Because I think they scanned it off an American car, American Formula E, which have slightly different rules. So um, yeah, for what they have, they've actually replicated the Australian car pretty well.
Yeah, I had a look on Assetto Corsa as well. They've got the Brazilian model, I think it is, and that's
Yep.
pretty good too.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple getting about. So it's pretty good on iRacing now that we've got you know quite a few Australian tracks.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's good that we can have a series that's almost based on Australian tracks.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you're very quick on the simulator. How
Yep.
many years of training did that, I guess, take you? Because you've been doing it since 2012, but have
Yep.
you been on it since 2012 or on and off?
Probably took me probably a good couple of years to get to the point that I was back then when I was doing it almost on a quite a competitive level. Um, stopped it now being that competitive. It just takes up so much time to run with the best, in Australia, I'd say. Um, Even then, you might still be only, you still might be 50 people in front of you. So you spend a week and you might be second on the pace still. So yeah, the Formula V series it's good because it's fixed setup. You don't have to worry about that. You just get in and drive and
Yeah,
the Cam and the guys from Western Australia who are running it, they've done a really good job with the series. So no, it's just a step back from being not super competitive. Um, as far as your time goes, it makes it a lot easier.
yeah. And I will admit they've done a really good job over there with the Formula VE series. It's I did it last year. I think I got a or was it early this year? I think it was early this year. Late last
Yeah,
year was a crossover.
yeah, summer
Um
series. Yeah,
yeah. So I got a podium at Watkins Glen, or did I win it? I think it was a podium, but I
yeah,
remember that. That was pretty good.
yeah. It's yeah, um, yeah. It's they've they've replicated the slipstream stuff pretty well as well
Oh
because
yeah.
that's just that's massive. You can't get away from anyone. So no, it's good to be able to replicate it, at
Actually,
home as well as
yeah, I will admit I did something a bit cheeky. I had someone behind me and I backed them up into another
yep,
car. So they started battling and then I drove off.
yep, yep. We got to do these things sometimes.
Oh well, it is what it is. But sim races and I guess real races have two different mindsets. Sim racers are
Yeah,
very quick at finding the limit. They're very
yeah,
good at going from corner to corner, corner to corner brilliantly.
yeah.
Where real racers, I think, are a bit better with racecraft. Um,
I think so. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's got that look about it. It's a bit frustrating when you know you're racing a sim racer who hasn't had much real life experience,
mm,
because they just can't see the big picture. I guess is probably one of the terms to use.
mm.
Um, you obviously don't win the race on the first lap. You've got to battle out to the end. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Um, and would you have any advice for your 15-year-old self?
um, probably just take it as it comes. Like over um, don't get overconfident with yourself. You just got to just learn off. If you have mistakes, learn off them.
Mm.
That's probably one of the main things. Um, you just surround yourself with the right people, and learn off any mistakes.
And do you have any plans for this year?
Um, Not really. So we've got, as far as racing goes, like I think I mentioned on it before, we've got our Australian title down here, so we'll have a crack at that with Wade. Then just see what happens. Probably do a bit of testing before then, because it's be a really competitive title this year. So there'll probably be half a dozen people that could win it on any occasion. So
Mm.
it'll be good.
But it sounds like you got quite a busy schedule ahead. Uh,
Yeah,
and I can't thank you enough for speaking to me tonight, Josh. It's been great to hear about your involvement in motorsport and all your achievements along the way. Hopefully, we catch up at the racetrack sometime soon. And for anyone
yeah,
heading to the racetrack this weekend, remember to drive fast and take chances safely, of course. Thanks, Josh.
absolutely, absolutely. No worries. Thanks for having me.